JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, October 17th, 9:15 a.m. on this fine morning talk. Really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P futures. Let me check again here. Actually, still in the red here, or stuck in the red. Actually, was flat for a second. On the heels of yesterday's sell-off, markets opened in the green, ramped to highs, almost 668 or so. I think it was about 10:15 yesterday morning, and then that was the highs of the day. And then we start to melt. Selling picked up into the afternoon, and then we got under that 660 threshold on the SPY, and then 658, and kind of stuck around there. Bounced around last 10 minute or so push, got us back over 660, closed right at 660, 64. And then overnight, no news really or catalyst. I mean, you have this whole backdrop of Jamie Dimon's cockroach, right? The conference call, JP Morgan, you know, Jamie Dimon talked about this loan bankruptcy, this auto parts manufacturer. I guess I don't know if JP Morgan was on the hook, but they had to write off some losses based on that. And then, then it brings back some of these other stories. I remember reading this article. I don't know if it was in the Wall Street Journal back in September. It was a whole big piece on Tricolor. It's like an auto lender in Texas. And I don't know want to say if they like preyed on low income folks, but that's kind of what it sounded like. So they would get these loans. Some of the cars were never inspected or verified. Just there was a whole lot of questionable things, right? But then I guess everything came to a head. They declared bankruptcy, it's like a $10 billion bankruptcy. And then yesterday too, Zion Bank, right? They had to do a write-off on another auto parts supplier or whatever that supposedly has fraud related to it. So, in the backdrop of everything that's going on, if this was a week where we had CPI data or we had some other, all this other government data was coming out or other headlines, maybe it wouldn't be front and center. But because there's somewhat of this news vacuum, it becomes this whole story that's just picking up steam, right? So even yesterday, yesterday we had Oracle earning. Well, Oracle had their analyst day, so they had their AI World this week, and then ending with analyst day, and they gave their update on their guidance, right? And the RPO, project. I always some reason I can't get this acronym right. Let's see, but the story last, well, I guess 2 weeks ago, remaining performance obligations, right? So when they had their earnings and the big gap up in Oracle, was some of it was the RPO, half a trillion dollars in why do I remaining performance obligations, right? So, and then OpenAI is 300 billion of that, whatever. But some of the concern last week or the week before in Oracle was this report out from the information saying that Oracle, the margins on these rented servers, they lost $100 million or whatever. So they were able to ease some concerns in that. They didn't mention it specifically, but it was enough to kind of like get a read through and say, okay, maybe that's not as big an issue. So the stock spiked to 320 or so, and then kind of gave back some of the gains. But there was not much yesterday. Overnight, there's not much either. And then this morning, you have American Express earnings, great earnings here. But it's interesting to see how we'll trade out here today. I'm sure there's going to be some opportunities on both sides. But to me, I was saying on the Rant yesterday afternoon, apologies, I had some issues with it. It seems like at the end of the day, I don't know if my computer is too much and I get some lag, and then the recording just didn't record. But I was talking about the uh, best setups, right? And one of the best setups for me is a Friday. A Thursday overnight sell-off, gap down Friday, and then a reversal, right? That there's so many times over the years where there's some amazing trades on some slingshot names you can get some calls on. We get a big pull at the open, and then you get some bounce calls. I was hoping we're gonna have kind of a similar setup here, but the market gods will not allow that to happen here today. We'll see. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be other opportunities, but earlier this morning, President Trump said that him and President Xi are gonna have their meeting in 2 weeks. So that gave some life to the futures, and we're almost flat here. So if you had woken up at 4 in the morning and looked at futures, say, "Oh wow, it's great! It's gonna be a great day for puts." If you woke up at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, you would be like, "Oh, flat day." So anyway, we'll see how things play out here today. I'm sure there'll be some opportunities. So just quick overall market. So just and also the VIX, right? I was talking about yesterday morning. If you look at this chart on the VIX, another I wouldn't call it a telling sign this morning, but the VIX was only up 2 or 3%, and the future was down 0.5%. So I think some of that's just a function of the VIX being in the mid 20s, but we'll see what happens here today. Sorry. So that's overall markets here. I talk about my support resistance 658, obviously a key spot there. 660, 665, and we get a some kind of bounce or buyers at the open, which wouldn't rule that out. And then on the flip side, at 653, last Friday, 653.17. I think Tuesday, 653.02. So definitely some key spots. All right, now that's quick on overall market. Individual names. First, I'll just talk quick about SERV Robotics. If there's a poster child for, I guess divisiveness or volatility, SERV Robotics just amazing. Again, this morning, 4 in the morning, down to 13.89. Friday, last Friday after the close was $14. But if you look at the open yesterday, it was 18.34. So I think it's like yesterday's trading action was an 18% swing on a stock. No news, no downgrade, no upgrade, just price discovery at its finest, right? So you're gonna tell me a name is so I wouldn't say unpredictable, but there's so much uncertainty with its valuation that trades in an 18% range. Like I don't know what that is for $200 million change in market cap. That's just remarkable to me. That means opportunity, right? I mean, to me, I think it's headed substantially higher. So unfortunately, you got to ride out the bumps to get to the big pay dirt, but we'll see. All right, so that's SERV Robotics all the way down 13.89, back into the green here by about 8:30. It's trading pretty much flat. I keep sticking to the plan. I'm not going to trade anymore. I'm not going to add anything more just yet. I'll just continue to lock things in on the way out. On the way up, I locked some of the March 40s in finally. Um, Now I talked about it yesterday too. The weekly options, they're opening more strikes, so I might be more apt to add some lottos, especially on dips, because we've seen some crazy dollar 50 reversals in a matter of an hour. So there might be opportunities there. So that's SERV. And then on the flip side here, yesterday I was doing the hedge puts. So starting at 10:30, Salesforce. I was actually looking on the call side on Salesforce yesterday, thinking that finally they threw everything but the kitchen sink trying to get the stock going. You just announced the OpenAI partnership at the start of the week, and that didn't get stock going. And then yet Tuesday after the close, they announced, actually Wednesday after the close, their updated guidance for 5 years. It's like a 10-15% growth rate. To me, it was like enough to appease investors. The stock should have rallied. It's been stuck in a couple years in this $250 handle. So it was gapping higher, running. I thought, oh wow, this might be the start of a move. I was looking for some later dated strikes, and then by 10:30 it started to melt. So looking in sympathy with the market as well for some put hedges. I went and got some of those 230 strikes. I was looking for strikes for this week, but I'm like, risk reward look more skewed to next week. And then sure enough, get stuck at 247, close those out. And then I was looking for some other names to play for hedges and TSM, right? So TSM had that great quarter, kind of gave a collective sigh of relief for the AI semi sector. And then that was starting to break. So I get the puts, and then like the market always does, it gets stuck at 301. I'm like, I almost pulled the trigger, closing them out flat. And then it broke through the 300s, closed them out for 50%, then more for over 100%. And then I held the rest into today. And sure enough, this morning you're looking, it's down, almost hit 290 in the after hours session in the pre-market. I'm like, these are going to be up a couple 100%. And then it's rallying here this morning. So it's at 297. I don't know what those puts are going to open. They're probably going to open flat if I'm lucky. So I might just look to salvage the rest of those flat and look for other opportunities today. That was TSM isn't like a bear story. It's just an opportunity. And we've seen this on earnings too, where you have these swings. Sometimes you get it by the dip, right? The stock opens lower and then there's reversal and heads into the green. You get these slingshot moves. And then you see the other way too with TSM. I thought there was going to be a possibility that it pulls back. And you look, Friday was at 280 or under 280. So, I mean, I wasn't trained for get there, but obviously it'd be nice if it did. But that's the thought process there in TSM. And then later in the day, Oracle, right? So it had that news pop to 320. And then it just kind of like started to, I wouldn't say find pressure, just couldn't break through. To me, I thought if they were able to update their guidance and alleviate concerns, it's back at 345. And considering it didn't do that, I'm like, this might be headed back under $300. Sure enough, overnight session gets down to 298. So I have those 290s. I don't know what those are going to look like at the open. They're probably going to be in the red. If it was at 300, I thought they might be close to a double. So if they're flat, I might just hold on to them as a lotto and then look for other opportunities. It might swing both ways here today. So Oracle could be a nice swing trade for some lottos. And then the SQQQ calls. So trying to find some hedges. Some of these names have high implied volatility. So the premiums are expensive. The SQQQ calls look inexpensive on a risk reward basis. If we do have some kind of major pull, I was able to close some of those calls out for 100%. And then sure enough, looking in the morning, SQQQ is up near $16. I'm like, I'm going to be a couple 100% on the calls. And now it's sitting here at 1533. I may actually just close those calls right out at the open because I don't know, the moves today. And it's one of those names. I mean, it's going to take a big move for me to get a couple 100% on the name. So I might use that to get some other lottos today. And then I'm certainly open to both sides of the tape here today. I would love to be optimistic and think we're headed to 665. But I think if we can't break and hold 658 today at the open, 1030 or so, I might start looking for some spec lotto puts. Not that I'm bearish, just for some opportunities. And then next week we get earnings, right? We get Netflix Tuesday, Tesla Wednesday, Intel next week. It should be interesting. All right, let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back. Rock and roll.